Hey, what is going on, class? Welcome to another TI-84 video. I know this was just the last one, but we want to do some more stuff because we have some more skills that are really important. It really matters that we understand how to use this thing to the, hopefully, the peak of its capability for what we want to do. So, in this particular case, we're going over looking at some points. You're given some points and you maybe don't know what to do with them. It's always a good place to start with if you're like, hey, I just want to see what these points look like. I'm not sure. You should graph them. Because it's a lot easier once you put it on a graph for your brain to just superimpose the formula that you think it's going to be. Whether that's in your head actually seeing like, oh, this thing's going to be exponential with this kind of value. Maybe that's where you're going to get to someday. But you can at least go, okay, I think this is the pattern and trace it. So, if you want to enter points on a TI-84, what you're going to do is come here to the Stat button. You're going to hit that. And we want to just hit Enter immediately on Edit. And what this does is this takes us to a table. So, now what we can do when we're looking at some points, like I've got some points in front of me, so just type these in with me. So, this L1 column is going to be our X values. And L2 is going to be our Y values. So I'm just going to type in the X values from, I have a list of 5 points in front of me. So I have 0, 2, 4, 5, and 6. So now those are all my X values. If I scroll over to where I'm highlighting L2, I'm just going to start typing in the Y values that go with each of those. And you want to make sure. So 20, 0. That's saying that the point 0, 20 is one of my points, which, look at my paper, it is. Just keep going. 100, 140, 145, 140. Now, at this point, it's usually a good idea to stop and look at this for a second. And just think, okay, if I'm seeing this, so this thing is going up pretty consistently, like this isn't jumping a lot. This thing's just going over, and I notice that I'm going up, 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 down. So I kind of already have a pattern in my head, and I'm not going to say it, I want you to be saying it to yourself. I already kind of see a pattern here, and I have a hypothesis. I'm saying I think it is this kind of pattern. And I want you to take your own guess and be like, I think it's this. You might disagree with me, or maybe you're still kind of working on it, but it's important that you guess. Because the only way you can get good at accurately judging whether or not something is what you're thinking or not is by having the willingness to make that guess in the first place. Because if you never try guessing, you're not going to ever be able to learn how to do it. Failure is annoying. It hurts sometimes. It's terrible when you are really bad at something. But you have to take the little steps and be willing to fail. Next up, we're going to come in here. We're going to hit zoom. But this time, instead of Z6. So Z6 gives you the normal positive 10 and negative 10 in the X and positive 10 and negative 10 in the Y. Gives you that nice like centered graph that we're all used to and we use all the time. What we want to do instead is, well, we were under the stat button when we were doing that. So we're going to hit 9 down here for zoom stat. We notice nothing happened. And this does not look like a different window. If you do something and you're like, hey, this should have done something, like I should see 5 points, that tells you something went wrong. So what you want to do is come over here, hit second, y equals for stat plot. And you can see that all of these stat plots are off. So you want to hit enter here. And just hit enter once to turn this to on. You'll notice how on is highlighted. Even when I scroll away, it stays highlighted. You want this thing to look like this. You want on, You want the little scatterplot symbol. We don't want any of these other ones. Don't touch those ones. And we want this to be L1, L2, or whichever L value you put the X and the Y in. So now when we come up here, we hit zoom 9. Well, now this looks more like what we wanted. This is now a pretty nice pattern, which when you're looking at this, I'm going to ask, do you think you know what this thing is supposed to look like? Like, be honest with yourself. If you're looking at this and you're like, I don't see the pattern, it's probably a really good idea for you to come talk to me, because this is a very important pattern that we're going to be dealing with a lot. And also, we've just been dealing with it for weeks now, so if you don't recognize it, come talk to me, because we need to fix that. So now, you have your points plotted, and you want an equation. So, first off, I want you to be thinking about, on the count of 3, I want you to say what kind of pattern you think this is. 1, 2, 3. If you said quadratic, great. If you didn't, I'm worried. Please come talk to me. When we look at this thing, we can kind of see how it goes up, 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 and turns around. And my guess is, see if I can get this to draw nicely. You would have some sort of curve like this. So, when we're dealing with this thing, we want to take this and go, okay, I need an equation. What's my equation going to look like? Well, first off, this thing is more like an N than a U. So that tells me this thing is negative because it opens down. If you remember, we had our negative is sad because it's negative and it opens down. So I know this thing is going to have a negative equation. But, well, it's kind of difficult to decide, like, what should I do here to this thing? Well, let's think about, okay, when we had a line, we had a bunch of dots on a scatter plot. We were dealing with a line, we would come here and we'd hit stat, we'd go over to calc. I said over to calc. 1 variable stats, I don't think so. 2 variable stats, no. Median, no. Line reg, ax plus b. That looks familiar. That looks like what we did when we were dealing with lines. But that's going to give me a linear equation, like y equals mx plus b. What's a quad reg? And bonus point, like, scroll through this thing. This thing is really cool. Like, the amount of things, like, you have a quad recognition, so it's going to give you a quadratic. A cubic recognition, it's going to give you some sort of cubic function. So that's x to the 3rd, x to the 4th. A different kind of line reg that we're just not going to talk about. A natural log, an exponential, a power function, logistic, sign recognition. You can do a manual fit line. Honestly, I'm not even going to lie. I don't even know what quick plot and fit equation is, but we're just going to ignore that. We're going to come up here. We're going to go quadratic. Hit enter on 5. So then when we're looking at this piece here, okay, we have L1. We didn't type anything in L3, so we want to change that. So go second, and I want L2 down here. So second 2. And then we want to not really waste a lot of time if we can avoid it. So what we want to do here is go to this vars button, which what this means is this is variables. And you want to scroll over once to y vars and hit enter. Hit enter again. So now what this is doing is this is going to make up an equation that fits your line, and it's going to take and type it for you in this y equals tab over here under y1. So hit enter, enter again, and boom. This is telling you that in this y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, your a value is -5, your b value is 50, and your c value is 20. And I don't think yours is going to have this little r squared equals 1 down here. The quick answer is this is just a analysis piece that I have turned on my calculators that basically shows you that, hey, this thing is exactly a quadratic. Like these points are perfectly quadratic. If you have a value that's less than 1, kind of as it goes towards 0, you're becoming more and more not accurate. Basically, this should be your confidence level of like, yeah, if I were to follow the equation, I'm going to hit those points accurately. As that gets to like 0.5, that means that it's kind of quadratic, but it's not great. 0 means that this thing is not a quadratic. You chose the complete wrong way of estimating it. So our equation should be y equals, of course it did a weird number. This should be y equals negative 5x squared plus 50x. Get all the way past this thing and whatever it's doing, plus 20. So you can see it's ever so slightly not those values. If you did those values, it would work out just fine. You're close enough. But if we come up here and we hit graph, boom, we see it goes perfectly through all of those points. Or at least it's close enough that I would say that this works. So this is just another tool that I would recommend. You get to know this tool really well because this is going to help you a lot when we get to our lab. Hope you're having a great day. Please, if you have any questions, come on in and talk to me and we can work on this and get you feeling more comfortable. Have a great day and I'll talk to you later.